Our series begins with a very skilled teacher named Chan. Unfortunately, he is forced to give private lessons to supplement his income. He informs the students that they have finished the curriculum. The students are upset because he is leaving the school, and it's clear they are fond of him. They ask him about the upcoming exam, so he gives them a booklet they call the Golden Booklet, claiming the exam won't contain anything outside of it. As he hands it out, a young man named Joe, a delivery worker, enters to deliver an order right in the classroom. This shows that Chan is very lenient with his students. Chan asks Joe what grade he's in. Upon learning he's in high school, Chan gives him the Golden Booklet. The other students object, complaining that they pay a lot of money for his lessons, yet he gives the booklet away to a poor student like Joe. But Chan does what he wants. However, the poor student, Joe, embarrasses them by refusing to take it. Chan looks at a cake, assuming they brought it to celebrate his departure. But, in a shock, they tell him it's their classmate's birthday, and they are celebrating it. He leaves, clearly upset. A girl named Song appears, who goes to the same school as Joe. She warns him not to tell anyone at school that she takes outside tutoring, as it is forbidden. The next day on the school bus, 3 young men, who are clearly troublemakers, show up. Everyone is afraid of them. One of the bullies just stares at Joe, so Joe and his female classmate get up and give them their seats. His classmate scolds him for accepting this treatment. When Joe gets off the bus, the bullies demand his money. He gives it to them without any resistance. Meanwhile, Jean enters the classroom. She is a new teacher on a 1-year contract. She is shocked when she sees the students' negligence. They don't even respect her presence. They see her but don't quiet down until she gets angry and slams her books on the desk. In the principal's office, the principal shows the teachers a photo of students smoking cigarettes and demands they be brought in for punishment. The teachers try to cover for the students, telling her their faces aren't clear in the photo. Back in the classroom, as Jin is trying to quiet the students, the 3 troublemakers enter and behave rudely. Just then, Mr. Ohm, a senior teacher with high status at the school, enters. He announces he will search the students. Jang, one of the bullies, hides his cigarettes. Mr. Ohm asks Jang to step outside and tells Joe to search Jang's seat. Joe is scared and says there's nothing, even though his hand touches the cigarette pack. Suddenly, the pack falls. Mr. Ohm takes both of them, Jang and Joe, to his office and shows them the photo they were in. He tells them to write a confession and an apology. Afterward, Jin follows Joe and urges him to tell Mr. Ohm everything, warning he could be expelled. However, Joe isn't convinced, excuses himself, and leaves. When Joe returns to the classroom, he finds Jang and his friends beating up a student who refused to give them money. Joe throws a book at them to stop it, then casually walks over to retrieve it. One of the bullies is about to hit Joe, but Jang stops him. Later, Jin enters and starts teaching. She sees Jang playing on his phone and goes to take it. When he refuses, she tugs at it, and he grabs her hand. Everyone is shocked, but no one intervenes. He snatches his phone back and high-fives his friend victoriously. Jin gets upset and leaves. At lunchtime, Jang cuts the line, and Jin yells at him. He is about to hit her, but as soon as she mentions calling his mother, he immediately backs down. He says, "Fine, I'll leave," showing he is afraid of his mother. Despite this, he gets angry again and raises his hand to Jean. Joe steps in and is about to hit him, but other teachers intervene. The next day, the principal makes an announcement, stating that their school is one of the worst, citing numerous complaints about student behavior. She warns that any student who behaves inappropriately will be punished and possibly expelled. Did you think this place was lawless? From now on, there will be no more joking around. We cut to Chan, who is telling his friend he signed a 1-year temporary contract and will start the job tomorrow. The next day, he goes to the school to start his job and speaks with Jean, who mistakes him for a parent. When he asks about the students' grades, she lies and says they are progressing well, and there are no complaints. The vice principal arrives, and Jin is surprised to learn he is actually a new teacher. He attends the assembly the principal is holding, and the principal introduces him to the students. Jin is shocked when she sees all the students enthusiastically greeting him. She learns from her colleague that he is a famous teacher whom students line up for. We cut to Joe, who is looking at a bruise on his body. Remembering when Jang hit him, Chan sees him and recognizes him as the student who refused to take the booklet. Chan tries to strike up a conversation, but Joe shuts him down, telling him to mind his own business. Jin goes to her office and finds Jang waiting to get his phone. She hands it over and tries to advise him, but he calls her annoying. snatches the phone, and leaves. One of the parents speaks with the principal, demanding that Jin be replaced by Chan as the homeroom teacher. The principal informs her that, unfortunately, it's not in her hands. Teacher assignments follow a strict system. Chan enters the classroom and finds the students being loud and ignoring him, but he knows how to handle them and gets them to be quiet. He tells them that if they want to get into university, they must listen to him and focus on his subject. As he's speaking, Joe falls asleep. Chan asks him if his lecture isn't important. Joe replies, "Honestly, you said whoever wants to go to university should pay attention. I'm not interested in university, so I'm going to sleep." Chan immediately kicks him out of the class. When Jang and his friends realize Chan is a strict teacher, and they won't be able to mess around, they decide to leave. Chan tells them, "If anyone else wants to leave, feel free." Another student follows them out. He goes to talk with Joe, apparently leaving so Joe wouldn't be alone. The class ends, and Jean enters. She asks for Joe, who is the class president, and the students inform her that Chan kicked him out because he isn't planning on going to university. She then asks if they finished reading the book she assigned, but they tell her Mr. Chan told them not to read it. Upset, she goes to confront him. He tells her that her teaching method is wrong. She asks him how he could kick out a student just because he doesn't want to go to university. He insults her, saying he knows she can't control the class, and is aware of the problems. "My advice," he says, "is to let me handle it." Just then, the principal summons Jin to her office. The principal blames her for not being able to control her classes and threatens to terminate her contract if things continue this way. She reminds her it's a temporary contract that can be torn up at any time. "As if you were never here." Jin is extremely upset by all of this. She goes to the school clinic and talks with the nurse, who notes that the teachers and students all hate the school. The nurse says, "You're strange, honestly. Do you actually like it here?" Jin replies, "So you're one of them, too." Later, she enters her class, and the students complain they are tired of paying a fine every time they are late, a system the teachers had agreed upon. Jin decides to cancel the late fine, and the students rejoice. But their happiness is short-lived when they learn the new punishment. They must memorize a poem every time they are late. After class, Mr. Chan tells Joe he must attend class even if he doesn't plan on university. "You might change your mind one day," Chan says, "and then you will have benefited." Joe replies, "No, that's impossible." The teacher tells him he can't become strong without learning and tells him to attend starting tomorrow. But Joe remains firm in his refusal. During Jin's class, the principal enters with a student and announces to the class that he is transferring and is here to say goodbye. Jin tries to talk the principal out of it, but the principal doesn't give her a chance. The student says goodbye to his friends. Jin follows him out and speaks to his mother, telling her the student must be allowed to stay, and that she, the mother, has the right to refuse the transfer. The principal tries to silence Jin, but Jin ignores her. The mother is overjoyed, as she didn't know she could refuse the transfer. She says, "Okay, my son will return tomorrow." All the students celebrate this. The principal is furious. Jin tells her, "If you want to terminate my contract, go ahead." The principal replies, "I will, but only after I make sure you can never work as a teacher again." The next day, Mr. Chan tells the principal that he agrees to become the homeroom teacher. The principal then goes and informs Miss Jin that she is no longer in charge of the class. During class, Joe sends a message to Song, who has been absent for a while. He threatens that if she doesn't come back, he will tell the other students she's taking private lessons. She shows up immediately. After class, her friends are surprised to see her. We cut to Jang, who decides to fight Joe. He tells Joe that he will fight him every time the teacher, Jane, isn't around. They go up to the school roof, and Jang locks the door. The other students are scared, but Joe warns them that if they cause trouble, the school will expel them. They don't care and start to hit him. Joe doesn't give them the chance. He jumps from the roof down to the ground. When Jean opens the door, she finds only Jang and his friends, who lie and say Joe went home. She and the other students look down from the roof and realize he jumped. The next day, Joe is punished because he is the class president, and Chan is also punished because he is responsible for the class. Chan uses the opportunity to talk to Joe and convince him to attend his classes. Joe tells him to leave, and that he will clean by himself. The teacher wonders why Joe hates him so much. In the teacher's office, Miss Jean sees the file of a student who has been expelled from 4 different schools and decides to accept him into their school. However, Mr. Chan is strongly opposed. Mr. Ulm overhears them and tells them they must come to an agreement. In class, a student finds her booklet, the one from Mr. Chan, in Song's desk. She accuses Song of being a thief, but Joe intervenes and says he found it in the trash and decided to put it in the desk. The girl doesn't believe him and insists Song is a thief, demanding that Jin not let the matter go. Later, while Miss Jin is walking with Chan, he informs her that Song has the same booklet because she used to take his private lessons, meaning she isn't a thief. Jin tells him he should give the booklet to all the students. He refuses, telling her his lessons are expensive, and he doesn't do anything for free. As Joe is leaving school, Jang and his friends show up and start beating him. At that moment, another student arrives and defends Joe. It's clear they know each other. Joe uses the opportunity, and as soon as he sees a teacher has spotted them, he runs away. The next day, the same student who defended Joe enters the classroom. Jin introduces him to the students. He is the one who was expelled from 4 schools. He tells them his name is Park. As soon as Joe hears the name and looks up, he is shocked. He becomes unfocused and doesn't even hear the teacher calling his name. A committee arrives and informs Chan that there is a complaint against him for teaching illegally, as private tutoring is known to be banned in Korea. The committee begins to investigate him. He denies the accusation and asks who reported him, but they refuse to tell him. Of course, he suspects no one but Miss Jin. In class, Mr. Ohm asks Park to solve a problem on the board. Park says he doesn't know how. He even refuses to go up and try. When Mr. Ohm threatens to fail him, Park tells him, "Don't provoke me, you'll be the one to regret it in the end." Mr. Ohm is embarrassed and tells him to come to the teacher's office after class. In the office, Mr. Ohm starts yelling, warning Park that if he causes any more trouble, he'll be expelled, won't be accepted anywhere else, and his future will be destroyed. When Park returns to class, Joe hands him his notebook, having already completed Park's homework. Park then tells Joe to go buy him food, and Joe actually goes and does it. The students are all confused, wondering why Joe is listening to him. It's clear there's something between them that makes Joe scared and completely submissive. He's so submissive that he even carries Park's bag on the way home. Joe asks where they are going. Park tells him, "We can't go to the same place together, because every time I see you, I'll want to hit you." But Joe doesn't seem to care. Suddenly, Joe's female friend appears, snatches the bag from him, and yells at him for listening to Park and carrying his bag. She throws the bag at Park and tells him not to treat Joe like that again. The next day, Joe meets Song on the bus, and they head to school together. They find the gate locked. She tells him to go in, and she'll enter when the gate opens. He jumps over the fence. As soon as he enters the classroom, his eyes are on Park. When Park leaves, Joe follows him and takes a cigarette from his hand. Park gets angry and tells him to leave before he hits him. By the way, Park says, "You're a brilliant actor. You've spent a whole year acting like you're just a normal kid." It becomes clear there is a major issue between them, and Park threatens Joe, saying he could expose his past and that when the students learn his true identity, they won't treat him the same way. Meanwhile, Song's friend climbs the fence and sees Song is still outside. She climbs down to her and apologizes for hiding the fact that she was taking private lessons with Mr. Chan. The two of them reconcile after realizing how trivial the issue was. At night, Park goes to meet Jang and his friends. He tells them he only agreed to meet to tell them to leave him alone so he can get through the school year. Jang tells him, "I heard you're a really strong fighter," but Park denies it and tries to leave, only to be stopped. At that moment, Joe arrives. Jang says, "I brought you both here to make it a fair fight. It wouldn't look good for all of us to fight one person." The fight begins, and Jang's friends beat them up. One of them tries to break Park's leg, but Joe shoves him away and starts hitting him, only stopping when he's surprised by police cars. At the same time, Jin and Mr. Chan arrive, having been notified about what happened. At the police station, the officer investigates them. Before Mr. Chan leaves, Jin asks him to keep the incident a secret from the school so none of the students get expelled. She vouches for the students and gets them released, telling them that from now on, she is responsible for them. She takes them to a restaurant to eat dinner together. On the way home, Joe follows Park, who tells him to stop following him. The next day at school, Jang approaches our hero, Joe, and says, "Hey, I heard you and Park were schoolmates back in the day. Is that true?" Joe ignores him and walks away, but he stops as soon as Jang calls him Tsunami. We learn that Joe used to be a gang member. When he enters the classroom, the teacher asks him to solve a problem, but he is so unfocused he can't even read it. In the teacher's office, everyone is upset because the exam was stolen. They don't know who did it and will be forced to retake it. During break, Students are distributing the exam questions to each other. Song is shocked when she finds her desk drawer open and her books soaked with water. She asks who did it, but naturally, no one answers. At the same time, Mr. Chan sees the students passing the questions around. Jin starts yelling at the class, not just because they ruined their classmates' books, but because they also stole the exam. She is furious, feeling there is no hope they will ever change. She asks Joe to bring her the cane, but she can't bring herself to hit them. She throws the cane down and hits them with her bare hands. She is the one in anguish. Chan notices she is about to cry, so he takes her outside. The principal arrives and scolds Jin for using physical punishment. Jin shows her hands, which are red from the hitting. The teachers realized this wasn't punishment. Jin was in pain and hurting herself. When Chan talks to Jin, she cries, upset for the students whose futures are being ruined, while none of them seem to appreciate what they have. Later, she sees the students gathered, and they promise her they will study and change for her sake. We cut to Jang, who tells Joe he must steal the exam for them, or he will tell everyone his secret. Joe actually cuts the power so he won't be seen on camera and goes in to steal the exam. The next day, the teacher hands out the exam. Everyone starts solving it except for Joe and Jang, who are asleep. They wake up and quickly finish it at the last minute. After the exam, the teachers discover that one of the spare copies of the exam is missing. They inform the principal, who gets angry because if it's confirmed it was missing times before the exam, they'll have to redo it, and the parents will be upset. She tells them to check the security cameras to see what happened. Mr. Chan enters the classroom and tells them a paper is missing, and whoever took it must come to his office. He and Jin then go to check the security footage, but they discover nothing because the power was out. A student then spreads the news around the school that they checked the security cameras but couldn't identify who stole the exam. The students are worried they'll have to retake it. All this time, Joe is listening, upset because he was the cause. Mr. Ohm reviews the external cameras around the school and sees Park outside. He asks Park what he was doing. Park lies, saying he was going home, but the teacher doesn't believe him. He tells Park he's used to trouble and could never be a quiet student. A teachers' meeting is held. One of them suggests turning the matter over to the police, as there's no proof Park did it. Chan asks them to wait until tomorrow before calling the police, saying he will investigate the matter himself. Miss Jin goes to talk to Joe and asks him if he did it, but he denies it. She tells him she won't help him, and won't forget that you tried to steal the exam. We know here that he tried to steal the exam but wasn't successful. The teachers continue to investigate until they find the person who stole the exam, a student who had transferred to another school. They inform the principal, who is relieved that it wasn't one of the current students. Joe goes to talk to Miss Jin and tells her he was threatened by Jang, which is why he was forced to try times to steal the exam. He promises her he won't do it again, and apologizes for always causing her trouble. In class, Miss Jin speaks on Joe's behalf, apologizing and informing the class that he had unfortunately tried to steal the exam but couldn't. She asks them to focus more on their studies. She also reveals that Mr. Chan was the one who uncovered the truth, and because of that, they won't be punished. She tells them they should all go and thank him. The next day, all the students are taking the exam. Song looks very sick. After the exam, she is walking with her friend when she faints. Although Mr. Chan sees her, he doesn't move. He has a flashback of carrying someone else who had fainted, telling them to hold on. Joe rushes over, picks Song up, and takes her to the hospital. There, the students start telling Miss Jin that Mr. Chan was standing right there and didn't move, even though he saw Song collapse. Unfortunately, he didn't even follow us here. They add. Jin tells them he was probably just in shock. At that moment, Song wakes up. The doctor informs them she had taken something to help her study for longer periods, which could have caused her to have a heart attack. As they are leaving, Miss Jin tells the students to return to school, saying she will take Song home. On the way, she learns from Song that her parents' only priority is for her to succeed and get into university. Jin feels bad for her and takes her home. The next day, Jin confronts Jang. She tells him she knows he threatened Joe to steal the exam and that she won't tolerate his behavior any longer. Jang gets furious and announces in front of all the students, "By the way, this Joe you all think is so nice? He was going to steal the exam for times. Park asterisk, not me. And did I mention these two were classmates back in the day? And Joe isn't even the age you think he is. He's much older than all of you." All the students are shocked, as they thought Joe was their age. Park hears this and walks away. Joe follows him out and tells him he's the person he fears most and doesn't know how to ignore. As usual, Park leaves and doesn't give him a chance to talk. In the principal's office, a parent is objecting to Park's presence at the school, saying he is a criminal and shouldn't be around other students. The teachers defend him, saying he is fine and isn't causing any problems. At the same time, Jo hands Park a book to read. Park throws it on the ground. One of the students picks it up and gives it back to Park, who shoves him. The student who was pushed turns out to be the son of the woman who was just in the principal's office. As soon as she sees her son on the floor, she yells at Park, saying he'll always be a criminal. Park then goes to Jo and says, "See, if I'm a criminal, what does that make you? I want you to stop acting so nice, because it won't change anything that happened in the past." We cut to the principal, who is furious. She orders a teacher to get Park's files from his old school, certain he must have hurt someone there. She plans to use the files as evidence to expel him. The poor student who was pushed goes home with his mother. He argues with her for going to the school without telling him. He reminds her that because of her behavior, his older brother went from being a diligent university student to a mental patient locked in his room. Suddenly, the brother starts screaming, the mother breaks down, and her younger son comforts her, promising that he will study hard. We cut to Jo, who is sitting in the school garden. He remembers the days when he and Park were friends and did everything together. Suddenly, he recalls when Park was in the hospital with a broken leg, looking at him with pure hatred, and how everything changed between them. What could have happened to cause this sudden change? Meanwhile, Park is in Mr. Ohm's office. Mr. Ohm asks him if he and Jo are friends, and Park says no. Mr. Ohm tells him to return to class and stay away from Jo. Instead, Park goes to our hero, tells him he's playing the victim, and grabs him. Jo's female friend runs quickly to tell the teachers what's happening. We return to Jo, who is begging Park to stop causing trouble, warning him that if he hits him, he'll be expelled. Park says that's exactly what he wants and hits him. Just then, the teachers arrive and pull them apart. Both are left waiting in the teacher's office. Jo apologizes to Park, but Park tells him, "It's too late. I'll never accept your apology." Meanwhile, the other teachers try to convince Miss Jean to file a report against Park, saying she was injured when he pushed her earlier, but she refuses, saying that's not what happened. She goes to talk to Jo and Park, telling them to return to their classroom and not cause any more trouble. Park then asks her if she was really times hurt because of him. She says, yes, she was, and then leaves. At night, Jo meets Park. Jo tells him he is going to the school because he is being officially expelled. "All I want from you," Jo says, "is to forgive me." Park mocks him. "You came all this way just to say those 2 words?" The next day in class, Miss Jean is teaching stories and asks if anyone wants to share something. Jo raises his hand, comes to the front, and begins. He says, "There was a young man who dreamed of being a professional soccer player, but to do that, he had to leave his gang. When he told them he wanted to leave, they beat him up and even broke his leg. The one who did it was an animal. You all need to know. I am that animal who beat up Park." Everyone is stunned, including Park, who can't believe Jo confessed in front of everyone. At that moment, Chan enters and tells Jin the school violence committee is outside. When she goes, she discovers the police officer is there and has informed the principal about the fight with Jang that she had tried to cover up. The principal excuses herself from the officer and asks to speak with Miss Jin privately. She yells at Jin for hiding the previous fight. "Therefore, you are the one who will be punished." Jin tries to explain, but the principal cuts her off, tells her to leave, and forbids her from attending the committee meeting, informing her that she is no longer the main homeroom teacher. Jin returns to the classroom, devastated. She tries to continue teaching but can't. She apologizes to the students and ends the class. In the committee meeting, 3 people vote to expel Park, and 3 vote for him to stay. The deciding vote is Chan's. He votes to expel him. The principal is delighted and moves to end the meeting, but Chan speaks up. "I am attending on behalf of Miss Jin. Therefore, this time I will say he must stay. But this is Jin's opinion, not mine." We cut to Miss Jin, who is with Jo. She tells him to get Park to come to the school times right now, because if he doesn't show up, he will be expelled. Jo calls him, but Park refuses to come, saying he doesn't care. Jo is forced to say, "Fine, I'll do what you asked. I'll give up the thing you told me to give up. That's why you have to come and see me right now." Everyone waits for him after the school day ends. Before he arrives, Mr. Ohm enters and says, "We gave him a chance to come, but he didn't. He must be expelled." At that exact moment, Park enters. Miss Jin says, "The class period isn't over, and he's here, so he won't be marked absent, which means he won't be expelled." Park asks Jo what he decided to give up. Jo hands him a piece of paper. Park laughs as he reads it. Jo then gives the paper to Miss Jin. It is a formal request to withdraw from the school. As Jo is leaving, Park tells him, "It's still not enough. You didn't leave school for the right reason. You left so you wouldn't have to be around me. Joe looks at him sadly, feeling sorry for the person who was once his lifelong friend. A few days later, Mr. Chan is walking and happens to see Joe working at a gas station. The owner is yelling at Joe for giving a customer too much change. Joe replies, "You're the one who did the math and told me what to give him. It's not my fault." But the man insists on docking his pay. Joe objects, saying his pay is already too small, and he can't afford the deduction. Just then, Chan enters and threatens the gas station owner, saying he'll report him for employing students and paying them low wages. The owner gets scared and says, "Fine, I'll increase his pay next month. But honestly, sir, he's just training right now." At school, the students are talking about how Joe left, speculating that it might be because of Park. Jang enters and tries to provoke Park into a fight. He turns on the fan, knowing it will annoy Park. When Park turns it off, Jang shoves him. Jang looks like he's about to hit Park, but his friend stops him and takes him away. We cut back to Joe. Chan tells him, "If you don't finish your education, people will keep treating you like this, paying you little money. No one will respect you or take you seriously." He gives him a paper and says, "If your father signs this, I'll get you back into school." After this, Chan goes to Miss Jin and tells her Joe is working at a gas station, so she goes to see him. She asks if his father knows he left school. Joe replies that his father doesn't really care and will sign off on it. She also gives him a permission slip, asking him to get his father's signature so they can help him return to class. In the classroom, Joe's friend asks about him. The students say they found out Joe was a criminal, and that's why he left. Jang enters and starts bullying the students as usual, but to his surprise, no one listens to him this time. He gets furious and vows revenge on Park, blaming him for turning the class against him. What angers him, even more, is when his friends tell him Joe is returning to school. We cut to Joe sitting with Miss Jin. Mr. Chan enters, grabs him, and takes both him and Park to the gym. He tells them they have to clean the gym, but Park refuses. Chan tells them, "Bottom line, neither of you is leaving until you resolve the problems between you." And he waits outside the door. Inside, Joe finally says to Park, "I'm not going to leave the school." Mr. Chan opens the door and says, "Great, I'll see you tomorrow." But later, as Joe walks with Park, he says, "By the way, what I said in there wasn't true. I'm not really coming back." Park, surprisingly, argues, "You have to attend. The teachers won't give up. As far as I'm concerned, you've been dead to me for 3 years, so just come back to school and stop pretending you care about me." Joe gets upset and walks away without a word. The next day at school, a student tells Park that Joe's motorcycle was stolen, and that Jang was the one who stole it to teach Joe a lesson. This is bad, as the motorcycle, which Joe uses for delivery work, actually belongs to a gang leader who will break the bones of anyone caught with it. At first, Park acts indifferent. However, he spends the rest of the day worrying about Joe, until he finally decides to go and save him. Park finds Joe and tells him, "Your motorcycle is stolen. Drop the key and come with me. Quick!" But it's too late. The gang arrives, and their leader orders them to be beaten. Park tries to escape with Joe, but they get caught. Park gets an opportunity to jump from a window and escape, but he hesitates, realizing it means abandoning Joe. He decides not to jump and stays. He starts fighting alongside Joe until they get a chance to escape together. For a moment, they laugh, just like they used to in the old days, but they quickly remember their conflict and sit far apart from each other. Joe thanks Park for keeping his promise. Despite everything, he recalls a flashback where Park promised years ago to protect him, no matter what, even if we're not friends anymore. The next day at school, Jean asks about Joe and is told he didn't show up, even though he said he would. But just as they're speaking, Joe walks in. The entire class welcomes him back. A teacher punishes both Joe and Park for their unauthorized absence. Their punishment is to clean for 7 days. Time passes, and exam day arrives. The principal tells Jin that the low-performing students shouldn't bother taking the exam, as they won't be able to pass. Jin objects, insisting they must be given a chance. Mr. Chan steps in, telling the principal he'll discuss it with Jin. He then tells Jin, "I think the principal is right." After a long argument, they both stick to their positions. They enter the classroom to collect the students' phones, and Jin is so upset with Chan that she ignores him. The entire school is focused on this exam, hoping to improve the school's official ranking among schools in Korea. Just before the exam papers are handed out, Jang is playing on his phone. Miss Jin tries to take it from him, but he refuses. Mr. Chan intervenes, throws the phone on the ground, and it breaks. Chan takes Jang outside to talk, but Jang ignores him as usual and walks away, despite Chan warning him that if he leaves now, he won't be allowed back in class. We cut to our friends taking the exam. Miss Jin is sad because a large number of students, unable to answer the questions, have fallen asleep. Meanwhile, in the storage room, Joe tries to convince Park to go take the exam. He apologizes, telling Park that the day he hit him, he never intended to break his leg. He just wanted to scare him, so he wouldn't leave the gang. Park gets furious and hits him. Joe provokes him further, wanting Park to hit him, perhaps so Park can feel like he's getting his revenge for what happened. Park gets angry and shoves Joe, causing a pile of wood to fall on him, knocking him unconscious. Park is terrified and starts banging on the locked door for help. After the exam, Mr. Ohm asks where Park and Joe are. Mr. Chan lies, saying they finished the exam and left. But Mr. Ohm sees their bags, which Chan is holding, and knows he's lying. Chan doubles down. No, they just finished early and left. But Mr. Ohm obviously knows he's lying. Back in the storage room, Park is scared. Suddenly, Joe wakes up. Park is relieved to see he's okay. They talk, and they finally reconcile. Joe tells Park he left the gang back then because Park was the only person he had. Park flashes back to when Joe used to sleep over at his house, as Joe was always alone and had nowhere else to go. Just then, Chan enters. Joe tries to hide a cigarette, but Chan notices and is about to scold him. However, Mr. Ohm enters right after and asks, "Who's smoking?" Chan covers for them. We cut to the pig Jang, who has been at a pool hall ever since he fought with Chan and left school. He has nowhere else to go. His friends find him and ask him to come back, but he refuses, saying he doesn't want to be their friend anymore. One of his friends, Hwan, gets upset and leaves. After this, Jang goes to the gang leader and tells him, "By the way, the guy who stole your motorcycle is in my class." Back with Joe and Park, Mr. Chan gives them worksheets, but they can't solve anything. He speaks to them calmly. "All right, you will come here every day until your skills improve. If anyone is absent, I'll punish them." Later, as they're leaving school, Joe spots the gang. He grabs Park, and they jump over the back fence to escape. The next day, the vice principal gives Miss Jin papers and asks her to distribute them to the class. When she reads them, she's shocked to see they are student evaluation forms for her. Chan finds out what's happening and gets upset on her behalf. He angrily confronts the vice principal, who says, "It's the principal's orders. I have nothing to do with it. This is clearly just a plan to get her fired." She tells Chan she will hand them out and accept her students' evaluation, whether they want her to stay or go. After she gets the evaluations back, she's dismayed to discover the students really don't like her teaching style at all. Her colleagues console her, telling her this is normal. Chan also talks to her, telling her to just keep working and ignore the feedback. However, she enters the class and starts a discussion with the students about what she can change in her teaching style, and she genuinely listens to their feedback. After the school day ends, as Park is leaving, Joe spots the gang again. He's sure they won't give up until they get their revenge. He calls Park and lies. "Mr. Ohm is looking for you." He does this to protect Park, because Joe has decided to surrender. He goes to the gang, telling them he couldn't fight them near the school. We cut to Park, who senses something is wrong. He goes back and sees Joe walking away with the gang. He chases after their car, but can't catch up. Unfortunately, his previously broken leg gives out, and he is forced to stop. Meanwhile, Jang is at the pool hall with his friends when the gang leader walks in, dragging Joe with him. The leader orders Jang to call his friend, Park, and tell him to come. Of course, our hero, Joe, refuses, saying he'll take the beating alone. The gang gets angry and starts beating him. All this time, Jang just stands by, watching and laughing. Jang's friend, Hwan, tries to intervene, but his other friend pulls him back. Hwan ignores him and tells the gang, "We're the ones who took the motorcycle." The leader tells Hwan and his friends to leave and never come back. After they leave, Park arrives and finds Joe bruised and beaten. He helps him up. On the way, Park tells him, "Even if you get beaten up in my place, it won't fix anything. My leg won't go back to the way it was, and I'll never be able to play soccer." He tells Joe that nothing he does will change the past. At this, Joe breaks down. "I'm doing this because I miss my friend." He cries. The next day at lunch, Joe goes and sits with Park. Park is annoyed and wants to leave, but Joe asks him to stay. Just this once, Park agrees. It seems his heart is starting to soften. After lunch, Mr. Ohm tells Joe he is being transferred from the school due to his absences. Joe learns he will be transferred in 1 week. When Joe enters the classroom, Mr. Chan calls him and Park over. He talks to them and informs them of their exam results. Park got the higher score. Joe asks, "So, is there hope for Park to get into university?" Chan replies, "No, he just got the higher score times between the two of you asterisk." As for times, both times of you, there's no hope of getting into university. He punishes them by making them write out corrections for every question they got wrong. Some time passes, and Chan returns to find they still haven't finished. He suggests they play basketball together instead. For every point they score, he'll cancel one correction sheet. Afterward, Mr. Chan tells Park what's happening. Joe is being transferred to a new school. He then leaves them. Park is clearly upset by this news. He goes to Joe and asks, "Why do you even want to leave this school?" Joe tells him he's upset about the transfer and isn't happy about it like Park seems to be. We cut to Hwan, Jang's friend, whom his friends see with a new motorcycle. They realize he's going to work with the gang. They try to stop him, but he won't listen, saying the only thing he cares about is making money. When they insist on stopping him, he hits one of them and says, "Look, even if I study, I'll never get into college. Who's going to pay for it? My mom? Who washes dishes? My sick father? I have to take some responsibility." He leaves them. The next day, there's an exam, and no one knows how to solve it. Mr. Ohm comes and takes Joe, handing him the transfer papers to sign. Before he can sign, Park bursts in and tells Mr. Ohm, "I'm not a victim. He and I are friends. There's nothing wrong between us." Mr. Ohm immediately cancels the transfer. When they go outside, Joe thanks Park for giving him a second chance. But of course, our proud friend, Park, acts tough. "It's not a second chance," he says, even though he's happy inside. After this, the vice principal holds a teachers' meeting and informs them that the principal has decided to fire Miss Jin. Sadly, Mr. Chan goes and tells the students the news. Miss Jin will no longer be teaching them, but, he says, if you stand against this decision, it can be changed. At first, no one objects. Suddenly, Joe stands up in protest, followed by a few others, but the number is too small. There's no hope. Jin decides to go pack her things. Chan follows her, telling her to be patient. He tries to convince her the students are just upset because Jang has returned, but she is heartbroken, believing the students have rejected her. Chan tells her that he always wanted to be a teacher like her, that no matter how hard he tries, he'll never have her qualities. He says she's a skilled teacher whose reputation could one day be far better than his, but she isn't convinced by his words and leaves. In the classroom, a female student tells Jang that what happened to Miss Jean was his fault. He is about to hit her, but Joe intervenes. That night, Chan goes to meet Jin and tells her that Mr. Ohm is asking her to write her resignation letter. It's clear he wants to tell her something else, but he hesitates and just asks her not to ignore his messages. The next day at lunch, Joe is eating with Park, and it's obvious they're starting to like each other again, as friends. But the real surprise is when Jang comes and sits with them. Everyone is baffled by his behavior. Even Joe and Park just stare at each other in shock. In class, the students vote for Miss Jin to stay, but they all get annoyed when the student, who was bullied, also raises his hand for her to stay, because, unfortunately, his mother is the reason this is all happening. The students all blame him, so he leaves, upset. Joe follows him out and apologizes. The young man tells Joe he wishes he didn't have a mother and goes home. There, his mother asks him, "So, did you finish preparing for the competition?" He replies, "By the way, that teacher, Miss Jin, the one you're trying to get fired, she's the one who helped me improve." But his mother remains stubborn. Before the competition, the student talks to his mother and says, "I'm not ready for this life. I don't want it. Why is my life like this?" But she insists she knows what's right and even gives him a pre-filled answer sheet so he can cheat in the competition. The only thing she cares about is him succeeding, no matter what. We cut to Park, who is buying clothes when he sees Jang with the gang. He remembers overhearing Jang on the phone with them, telling them he didn't want to be involved with them anymore. Park follows him and sees him going to the school. At the school, Park runs into Joe and asks if he's seen Jang, pretending he's just passing by. The two of them start looking for him. Meanwhile, Miss Jin arrives and activates the security system, not knowing they are inside. At the same time, the poor student decides not to go through with the competition. He wants to change the system he's living in and live the life he wants. He climbs to an area of the school that is off limits. When Park and Joe open a door, they trigger the security alarm. At that moment, Park sees Jang trying to escape with a bag full of the students' cell phones. When Jang sees them, he gets scared, puts the bag back, and they start chasing him. Mr. Chan goes to turn off the alarm and checks on the phones. When he finds them all there, he doesn't do anything. On his way down, he sees the security guard chasing Park and Jang. He looks at the bag and understands that Jang tried to steal it. He then goes to find the poor student, who is standing on the roof, having decided he wants to fly. At the same time, Miss Jin is looking for him. She sees Joe and asks if he knows where the student is. Jo shows her the student's bag and books, which were thrown from above. Jin looks up and runs to the roof to catch him. She finds him shaking and terrified. She starts to calm him down, talking to him and telling him she's proud of him, trying to talk him out of what he's planning. Meanwhile, Jo is talking to Park, telling him, unfortunately, Jang borrowed money from the gang and is in trouble with them. Mr. Chan, having figured everything out, finds them. He tells them, the two of you will come see me tomorrow, and bring Jang. Tell him not to be afraid, since he put the bag back. But if he doesn't show up, you two will be the ones in trouble. We cut to Miss Jin, who managed to convince the student to come down. She takes him home. His mother is annoyed, and tells him they'll talk tomorrow. Afterward, Miss Jin calls the mother and tells her what happened. They agree to meet and talk. After the call, the mother overhears her son talking to his autistic brother. He's telling his brother about how he felt on the ledge and how he changed his mind, because if anything happened to him, his mother might die from it. The mother hears this and breaks down crying, realizing she has been putting an unbearable burden on her son. The next day, Jo goes to Jang's house to get him to come to school. Although Jang refuses at first, Jo convinces him. Meanwhile, the poor student enters the classroom and finds his classmates talking about him. Unfortunately, the news that he cheated has spread, and everyone is calling him a cheater. He gets upset and leaves. Jo follows him out to calm him down. The student tells Jo he hates coming to class. Jo replies, I've hated it since elementary school. It's not a big deal, just ignore them. Later, Mr. Chan walks with Jang to talk about what he did. Mr. Ohm shows up and asks who broke the phone locker. Chan lies, saying Jang did it only to get his phone and that he returned it. Mr. Ohm asks, why did he return it? Chan says Jang was afraid Miss Jin would be fired because of him. We cut to Miss Jin, dear viewer, who is meeting the student's mother. The mother thanks her for helping her son, and admits she was wrong. She goes to her son, and tells him to do whatever he wants. It's clear she has begun to change. Miss Jean also starts giving supplementary lessons to the students to help them improve. Even Jang and his friends start attending. Later, Jang's friends find out he's at the pool hall and go there. They find the gang beating him, telling him he has to pay his debt to be left alone. Jo enters and gives them the class piggy bank, telling them it contains more than the amount they want. They take it, let Jang go, and leave. We learn this was the money the students paid as late fines, which finally served a purpose. Jang tells his friends, fine, I'll pay this money back. Back at school, Jo holds another vote for Miss Jin to return, but unfortunately, the number of supporters is still low. We go to Jin, whom Mr. Ohm tells they are planning a farewell party for her. She refuses and looks at the school and students sadly. Chan sees this and goes to the principal, telling her that 26 students want Jin to stay. The principal says, you're too late. We're already processing her resignation. In class, the students learn Miss Jin is leaving. They decide to throw their own farewell party and ask Jo for the late fine money to pay for it. Of course, there's a problem. The money is gone, having been paid to the gang. In the principal's office, she lies to other staff, parents, pretending she tried to keep Miss Jin, but at the students' times were the ones who requested she leave. And now that the students have changed their minds, she says, I've already signed a contract with a new teacher, and we can't have 3 teachers for the same subject. At this, Mr. Chan says, fine, I'll resign. Problem solved. We go to the students, who open the cabinet to get the money. They are shocked to find nothing. Jo informs them that he spent it and will pay it back later, then leaves. Everyone in the class is furious, saying he's unfit and shouldn't have been class president. One girl says, he used to be a gang member. What did you expect? Jang can't stand this and is about to tell them Jo used the money to help him, but his friend stops him. Jo enters and apologizes, saying he was forced to take the money but promises to return it. They insist on telling the teachers, but Song intervenes, assuring them she will make sure Jo returns the money. They start collecting new money from each other for the party. In the official meeting, the principal lies again, saying no one asked Miss Jin to leave and that she decided on her own. But Mr. Ohm speaks up. The students were always sleeping in class and unfocused, but she managed to correct their behavior. She changed many things in them, and she changed us, too. All the other teachers agree and request that Jin be brought back, saying she put in the most effort to change the students. The vice principal then informs them that the poor students' mother also requested Jin's return. They all agree Jin will not leave. This, of course, doesn't please the principal, but all the students rejoice when Miss Jin enters the classroom and tells them she's back. Time passes, and the last day of school arrives. Mr. Chan and our heroine, Jean, learn they will both be renewing their contracts for the new year. They say goodbye to the students, who have all managed to change their grades and behavior, becoming students who can be relied upon. Jo is shown talking with Park about their future together. Park and Jo become friends again. Jin, through her persistence, was able to change an entire class. Even Jang, who was the cause of all the problems, became a good person and a role model for others. And this is where the series ends.